Thanks for joining us today. Happy Cybersecurity Awareness Month. On behalf of Access One and myself, I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's cybersecurity tips for SMBs. My name is Melanie Vernon, Deputy Chief Information Security Officer for Access One. We will be having a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. We have our marketing manager, Jason, here who will help field those questions. So please feel free to ask away. A little bit about me. My name again is Melanie Vernon. I'm an information security compliance and risk specialist. I specialize in information security. I have about 10 years in IT, including 3 years in public policy. So what I really enjoy is helping clients reduce their attack surface and increasing their security risk posture. If you have any questions after this and you'd like to chat further, just let us know. We're going to go through our agenda. So we're going to go over a little bit about Access One, then we'll move into cybersecurity do's and don'ts for small businesses, and then segue into our Q&A. Okay. So Access One, we've been your trusted technology partner in the Chicagoland area for 32 years. We have an arm of managed IT where we manage networks, systems, and have a 24/7 stateside help desk. We also offer pro services where we do cloud build outs as well as migrations. And then we have our security consulting arm, which is a team that I lead, which has vCISO, GRC, and cybersecurity. And then we're going to go in through a little bit more of what my team does. So obviously we do manage security. We are specialists in information security. The team consists of both technical engineers in cybersecurity as well as those who specialize in information security. We have a 24/7 security operations center that goes in tandem with our endpoint detection and response. So those are engineers that are continuously looking into your environment, making sure there's no anomalous behaviors that are occurring. We also help with vulnerability management, where we're scanning your environment every week, analyzing that data, and identifying any critical or high vulnerabilities in your environment that we can help remediate. So those are just a few things that we do. We can go on further, but that would take more than 30 minutes. So the vCISO services specifically cover GRC. We help with incident response procedures and plannings, written information security programs. We do full risk assessments. We help with third-party risk management. And then we also offer, again, a wide array of frameworks that you can have to implement to identify any risks in your environment or to adhere to any regulations that you might have to meet. All right, cybersecurity do's and don'ts for small businesses. Now, this is a very high-level overview of what you can do. I find these to be the most foundational pieces that any organization can do to make sure that they are reducing their attack surface and increasing their risk posture. So why is it important for you guys to implement security measures for your organization? Well, statistics show that 43% of cyber attacks target small businesses. So what that's telling us is that small businesses are equally as targeted as large enterprise businesses. Unfortunately, we only hear about the large enterprise businesses because those are the organizations that have the money to spend on marketing, the large legal firms, who to notify across every state during the event of a major breach. They have forensic experts that can help them. Smaller businesses often don't have that ability to do that. And so as a result, 60% of small businesses shutter after 6 months of a major attack. So not only are you equally targeted by threat actors, more than 60% of small businesses will close. That is so detrimental, and we do not want to see that. So we want to go through prevention measures to allow for a faster recovery and less downtime of your organization. It makes it less impactful, and then you guys can be spun right back up and on your merry way. So our cybersecurity strategy, we'd like to follow the 5 core pillars of cybersecurity at Access One. We always start off with the CIA, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, but I like to add in the accountability and the resilience components as well. As we go through the dues within cybersecurity dues, we will talk about how these 5 core pillars of cybersecurity relate to the different action items that we're going to talk about under the dues. So confidentiality, we'll talk about access control. We really only want to provide our end users with the amount of access that they should have. So not everyone should have admin access. Not everyone should have access to the HR folders. Really limit who has access to what. Integrity, that's going to encompass data protection. So we want to make sure that you guys are backing up your data. You know, what is it the threat actors are trying to get? They're trying to get your data. So we want to make sure that it's encrypted in transit and at rest. Availability, system security, you want to make sure that you are patching on a regular cadence, and that if you don't have an MSP or a partner that's doing patching for you, you're setting that auto update when it comes to your operating system and some of your software that you might have in place, like Microsoft Office. Accountability, employee awareness. I know no one loves training, but this is something that we highly encourage because most of breaches that occur are due to human error. So it's not that someone is actually maliciously internally trying to bring your company down. It's because someone accidentally maybe clicked on a phishing link or they connected to public Wi-Fi. So we want to make sure that our employees are aware of what to look out for and what to do in the event of clicking on a phishing link or accidentally connecting to something where they find that that's something weird or off is happening. And then resilience, we're going to talk about incident response and how to prepare your organization for an incident and how to recover from them as well. So do number 1, use strong passwords and MFA. This is under confidentiality. I can't tell you how many organizations that I come across where they don't require strong passwords that are unique, that have multiple numeric characters in it. And then they reuse the same password for multiple different logins. That is a huge no-no. We recommend that you use a password manager. One of the famous ones that are out there, not to say that this is the best one, but LastPass. That one was one of the most major ones. We do know that they were breached twice, so I wouldn't recommend going with LastPass. We use Keeper at Access One. It's a pretty great tool, but it's a way to store your passwords encrypted and to be able to share them securely with your team if need be. And then always baseline of defense, enable multi-factor authentication. That's where you are either putting in a code once you enter your credentials, or you get a push to your phone so that you hit OK and it allows you in. But always enable multi-factor authentication. I know that a lot of folks tend to not like it. It tends to be a little bit cumbersome, but I promise they'll get used to it after they use it a few times. Do number 2, back up your data. This is part of integrity. So we want to make sure that your backups are set to an automatic cadence, that they're backing up multiple times a day, and that those backups, that data is encrypted in transit and at rest. So that means wherever your data resides, when it's backed up, when it's moving to that backup location, it is encrypted. And then when it's housed in that backup location, it is also encrypted at that point. You want to also test your backups regularly. You want to make sure that your backups are actually backing up viable information. There's nothing worse than something happening and we have to be spun back up and you don't have viable data to spin yourself back up. I've seen it to where companies have not had viable backups for 6 months. They hadn't tested their backups in years. And then when they went down, we spun them back up and realized that their data was 6 months old. So don't want to do that. Do number 3 under availability. You want to keep your software up to date. Again, if you do not have a managed service provider that's assisting you, turn on automatic updates. That will be, for your Microsoft Office. It will also be for your operating systems as well. Especially with Mac devices, you want to make sure that you're turning on those auto updates for your iOS. You want to patch your software regularly. So if you don't have, again, an MSP helping you or a partner helping you, make sure that if you have on-premise servers or you have, an internal network with the brick and mortar, that you are updating your firewalls and you're patching regularly. Microsoft offers Patch Tuesday, which is the second Tuesday of the month, where they identify all the vulnerabilities that are out in the wild. They do a cumulative patch, and everything rolls up, and you're in a good place until the following month, where they identify more vulnerabilities that are out there. When it comes to antivirus, I highly recommend that you're not using something like a Norton. Use something that's a good, strong antivirus, such as a next generation antivirus or an endpoint detection and response. Accountability, we want to train your team. Again, we're talking about the first line of defense, which is your employees. We like to call them the human firewall. So we want to teach them how to identify phishing, and then conduct regular cybersecurity training. What we like to do is implement short 5 to 15-minute trainings on a quarterly basis to break that up so it's not a cumbersome 1-hour training at the beginning of the year. We gamify a lot of those trainings to make them interactive. And then we also simulate phishing tests. So we get a little sneaky and we send out those phishing simulation tests to see who's going to click on it. And whoever clicks on that link will be rerouted back to that cybersecurity training on phishing. So these are all things that you want to do to make sure that you are preparing your employees to know what to look out for. All right, one of the big topics that I always hear, no matter where I'm at, whether it's at a conference or in front of a client, do you have an incident response procedure? And do you have an incident response team that knows how to implement that procedure? Those that are newer to the cybersecurity game often, look like a deer in a pair of headlights. They're like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? What do we do? So you want to assemble an incident response team. I like to call them the Avengers, because when it hits the fan, Avengers assemble, and then you implement that incident response procedure. My team can help you with planning and conducting incident response tests. And you want to make sure that you are testing that incident response procedure at least annually, so that if and when something does happen, your team knows exactly what to do. Who is it going to be the person that contacts cyber insurance? Who is the person that's going to lead up communicating to your internal stakeholders? Who's the person that's going to communicate to executive leadership? So these are all things you have to take into consideration, because if you do have to go to cyber insurance, you need to have all of your information and your ducks in a row to provide that to your insurance carrier. All right, so now that we've talked about the 5 pillars of cybersecurity, we're going to talk about what not to do. Some of this information is going to be a little bit redundant based off of what we said earlier on the do's, but we just really want to hit it home on what you should not be doing within your organization. So again, do not reuse or share passwords in an unsecure way. One password for all is a very high risk, and here's why. If you are using the same credential, and this could be personally or professionally, if you're using the same password for everything, and then a website that you used or a platform that you used was compromised and your credentials were stolen, what a threat actor could do, and this is a very low level threat actor. I'm not talking about threat gangs. What they can do is take those credentials that have been purchased off the dark web and do something like password spraying or brute force attack. And what they're doing is they're just putting in that password into any and every platform that they can think of, trying to get a hit. So that it's just that easy nowadays. Okay. So we also don't want to share passwords via email. I don't recommend sending it encrypted. It's not my most favorite way of doing so. I do prefer using a password vault to send out any type of confidential information. But please, please, please make sure if you're sharing anything via email that you're doing it encrypted if it has confidential information such as passwords, PII, things of that nature. Number two, do not want to delay updates. Again, I know that we talked about earlier, outdated software equals vulnerable systems. So if you're not updating them in a timely fashion, that what happens is now your systems are sitting vulnerable. And if there's a threat actor just sitting in your environment waiting to find something that's amiss, they're going to jump on that. So there's often times where we see that a threat actor will sit in a company's environment for however long they need to until they find a way in to get to the meat and potatoes, which is basically your data. You want to do a software update as soon as possible. Don't delay on that. And then, like I said earlier, enable auto updates where possible. So public Wi-Fi, a lot of us travel on a regular cadence. We really, really, really do not want to access public Wi-Fi, whether that's in the airport, Starbucks, a hotel. We really want to ensure that you are connecting in a very safe way. Why? Because these are prime targeted areas for a threat actor to just sit outside of that establishment and spoof the SSID. So what that means is they are creating a fake Wi-Fi signal, hoping that someone connects to it, thinking that it's that free public Wi-Fi, and they're using that to try to harvest your credentials. We also want to use a VPN if you're going to be working remotely. That's one of it is the gold standard across the board. Now we're seeing more zero trust. We're not going to go into that because that is another topic of discussion. But you always want to use something like a VPN if you're remoting into your organization's internal environment. Don'ts, number 4, everyone doesn't need admin rights. Everyone just doesn't need admin rights. Make sure that you are revoking any full privileges with full access to those who don't need it. Very, very, very much limit who has admin privileges. And then go back through and monitor and assess who has admin privileges. I like to do that on a monthly basis. You can do it on a quarterly cadence. But as long as you are reviewing who has those admin access privileges, and they are supposed to have them, then you're in a good place. Storing data. I see all the time that folks are putting passwords in an Excel sheet, or they store a lot of sensitive data in an Excel sheet, or they'll put information, financial information, in a Word document, not realizing that it's not safe. You always want to encrypt sensitive files and communication, just to make sure that it's sitting in a place where it's not easily accessible. We don't want sensitive data exposed. That is exactly the type of data that these threat actors want. All right, so some of the tools that we use to help keep your business secure at Access One, it's like I stated earlier, we use Keeper as our password manager. For our backup solution, we use Datto. Our security suites that we use here is SentinelOne for our endpoint detection and response, and Blackpoint for our managed detection and response and security operations center as a service. Our VPN is Cisco Global Protect, and then what we use for our end user security awareness training is KnowBe4. So any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to us and we can chat through that and walk you through our processes there. Cyber insurance. How many of you all have cyber liability insurance? On top of that, how many of you have business interruption insurance? These are all insurances that every organization should have. The famous line in the sector, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we're here to help you with cybersecurity insurance. We offer a cybersecurity readiness program that will help you put everything in place so that you can ensure that you have cyber insurance for your organization at a premium that you deserve. So if you need anything in terms of cybersecurity insurance, please reach out to us. We're always happy to help and answer any questions you may have. All right. So in honor of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we're offering a free cyber readiness report. It's a 14-point report where we analyze your organization from a very high level. We offer an external vulnerability scan that will show us what the threat actors see looking into your environment or trying to access your environment. If you'd like to have that free cyber report, please go to www.access1inc.com/free cyber report. We also have two more webinars within our webinar series. Next up is Noah Kruger. He will be talking vulnerability management on the 22nd. And then we have our security architect, Angela Gallo, who will be talking penetration testing on the 29th. Both of those will also be at 10 a.m. You can register for those events at www.access1inc.com/events.